Hello everybody, my name is Helen Thompson. I'm from the British Franchise Association. I'm here today talking with Richard Brookes from TaxAssist. Richard, can you talk me through your background prior to TaxAssist?
Yes, certainly, Helen. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm a 60-year-old qualified chartered accountant. I qualified back in 1987, at that time studying and qualifying in practice. Stuck around in practice for 2 and a bit years after qualifying, and then decided I really wanted to get out of practice, I suppose is the way to phrase it. I think I'd had one too many ungrateful clients and decided that that and timesheets, it was time to go and see what the big wide world of commerce and industry were like. So I'm from Ipswich originally, so I secured a position at the Port of Felixstowe, where I became initially senior financial accountant at a point when the port was being sold by P&O to the Hutchison Whampoa Group, a major multinational based in Hong Kong. I worked there, so I worked in Felixstowe for 5 years, couple of positions, financial accountant, treasury accountant, essentially on the non-management accounting side of things, which sort of suited my experience. Mm-hmm. And then there came about the opportunity to go overseas, to head up or to be part of a team of 2, as it was initially, to run a project in the Bahamas, which was to start up a container port in partnership with the local Port Authority company in Grand Bahama. And also as part of that, we took over the running of the local cruise harbour and airport facilities. Lovely. So I basically handled, I was called finance and admin manager. So essentially I looked after everything that wasn't operations. And that was great for me because it obviously took me away from day-to-day accounting and suddenly had to think about setting up computer systems and recruiting and HR and all manner of things that I hadn't looked at before in a sort of very narrow field of experience. And I was there for 4 years. My wife and family over there with me. Obviously, it was a great experience, but not quite as glamorous as it always sounds to everyone. You might say I'm not deeply suntanned now, and I wasn't hugely different back then either, because you worked in very air-conditioned offices.
I can imagine.
No, it was a great experience, of course. But we reached the point where our sons, or the eldest of our sons, was due to start high school, and whilst my wife taught in the high school that he would have gone up into, you were sort of essentially met with the same decision that all expats do at some point. What do we do with the kids? Do we pack them off to boarding school, or do we all go back from whence we came, kind of thing? And we decided on the latter, because we didn't have kids to then pack them off to boarding school. So as it turned out, my wife and the boys came back to the UK just about a year before I did. And whilst there was the lure to go elsewhere in the world with other positions, they didn't quite capture me in the same way. So I came back to the UK and really started afresh, because there was nothing in Felixstowe at my level at that time. So I joined originally as a contractor, what was at that point called Novartis Crop Protection Limited, which then very quickly was spun out from Novartis, merged with AstraZeneca to become part of the global Syngenta organization, with sort of HQ based in Switzerland. And I was there as sort of chief accountant here in just outside Cambridge for 8 years, until we were conducting a project, a European-wide project, to how to get closer to the customer, to the end customer. But as part of that, the question was sort of thrown at department heads as to, well, say we asked you, how can you save 10% off your departmental costs? How would you go about doing it? And in finance, it was really quite simple because our costs were fixed. You know, we carried the audit fee, we carried insurance. Those were the chunky numbers, and then it was salary.
Yes.
So the answer was very simple, was kind of get rid of me, and that's your 10% save sort of thing. So I was able to sort of secure, if that's the right word, I was very lucky. I mean, I was very happy that to maneuver into that position. I was very fortunate to leave with a sort of chunk of change that enabled me to move forward to the next stage. And of course then, so you know, you've got your gardening leave to go off and think about what you want to do and that. So what did I want to do? And I suppose, you know, I would have could have bought a rundown property, done all the work to do it up, and then so on and so forth to get into sort of property development. And across the years, we've done various work to various houses. So would have been confident of doing it or organising it, but less confident given that we were in the last recession in 2008.
2008, yes.
The last recession seems like a lifetime ago.
It does, doesn't it?
But you know, would have wanted to sell the property on straight away, and that realistically wouldn't have been possible. So you kind of think, okay, so I'm a chartered accountant. I sweated blood to get those initials after my name and everything else. What best to stick to what you know best, kind of thing.
Sure.
And my wife at that point owned a franchise business. She's a teacher by training.
Right.
And she owned an educational franchise.
Right.
And she'd had that, I think, if I'm right, for about 2 years. And of course, at that point, we'd done a lot of due diligence and research into franchising and the sort of, you know, what to expect and the pros and the cons. The pros heavily outweigh the cons if you do your homework and you've got a good franchisor behind you. So I sort of started looking at the franchise opportunities, and sort of specifically white collar ones. So around the sort of estate agency, cost reduction, and of course accountancy. Yeah. And I think at that point, if I remember correctly, the kind of estate agent franchises were already set up in Cambridge. We were living over in Cambridge by then. So I ended up looking at accountancy and setting up my own practice. And of the two principal offers in my field, well, you can see by the plaque behind me which one I very quickly chose.
You found TaxAssist.
so yes, I chose TaxAssist Accountants, and have, you know, never regretted that for a moment. You know, in fact, really the opposite. You know, I do wish, you know, sat here as I say, being 60 now, if I'd been able to wind the clock back and do it previously, would have been great, because, you know, would have had more time, as it were. But, you know, I guess at whatever point in time you find yourself, you're the sum of all the experiences you have then. Yes. Realistically, I didn't have the money either, so so that's probably more the deciding point. But you know, all the reasons for looking at franchising really are encapsulated by TaxAssist in my field. You know, multi-award. I can't remember if they were at the time when I joined, but certainly since I joined, and nothing to do with me. But multi-award winning as a franchisor, so very successful business model. And of course, the fundamental idea, if you're investing a not insignificant amount of money into a franchise, whatever it is you're going to do, you're doing that really to apply a proven business model.
Absolutely.
If you're going to then turn around and seek to reinvent the wheel, or just save your money in the first place and go off and do whatever you think you're going to do. And Helen, you'll obviously have the stats to pluck, which I can't remember, but I do know it's something around, is it 95% of all franchisees are profitable within, I forget the time frame, whereas 50% of normal sort of self-employed startups will fail within the same period.
Absolutely, yes. The failure rate is considerably lower in franchising. You're absolutely right, Richard. So you've been a TaxAssist franchisee for some time now. So what does your business look like today?
Well, today, so when I started out back in 2008, we were just in the process, well, we just moved house out into the sticks outside Cambridge, but at that time it was obviously looking, our model is the shop front office.
Yes.
Because it makes us available and approachable for clients, prospects to come in and see us as the sort of smiling face of accountancy, so to speak. So I had identified premises fairly soon after sort of starting out. But as these things often do, the legals took longer than you expected. So had a period of from sort of July to November when I was kind of working from home, and that sort of suited because we'd moved house. My wife had the opportunity to buy another territory in her franchise, so we were sort of a bit busy with that. And we're waiting for the legals on my lease and then to do the building works. So we opened the doors on the first week of December 2008, sort of sat back, this wasn't in this office, sat back sort of trying to make myself look big and fill a space and wait for them to come, as it were.
Yeah.
But they did start to come in. You know, we had a big debate between ourselves. Do we open on Christmas Eve? No one's going to be interested in looking for an accountant on Christmas Eve. Surely not. So, but then we thought, well, okay, we'll open until lunchtime. And I had two tax returns walk in that morning and sign them up, because they weren't working. You know, logically, if you think about it, they weren't working. They had time, they had a need, and there, you know, and there we were.
There you were, yeah.
So now, 12 years on, I have two offices. So an office in the same street in Cambridge where I started out, although we moved across the road when premises came up, which had the attraction of actually buying them and owning them rather than renting. And at about the same time, the office where I'm sat, which is on the north side of Cambridge, the north side of the river, came up after sort of looking for a second office this side of the city for probably 3 or 4 years. So I've had the two offices now for 2.5 years, just over. We look after something around, we'll complete something around 400 self-assessment tax returns come the end of January next month, and we look after about 140 limited companies. In addition to that, some of them will do everything: bookkeeping, payroll, VAT returns, as well as the sort of accounts and year-end tax work. Others will just do the sort of the year-end stuff. So we're set up to do very much whatever the client doesn't want to do, hasn't got the expertise, hasn't got the headspace for. You know, it's all about making their lives simple.
So it's a real variety. So no regrets and no looking back, only forward.
No, I don't. I'm not good at navel gazing, looking back. So no, it's very much about sort of looking forward.
Brilliant.
Trying loosely to plan. Of course, this year is kind of, with COVID, has kind of knocked a dent in plans, but we've worked around and you know, we're still here.
Brilliant. Well, that is great news. And Richard, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I think there'll be a lot in there that resonates with a lot of people that are maybe in the position that you were some time ago, with facing redundancy and wondering what would be next. So thank you very much for your time today. It's much appreciated, and every success and all the best for the future.
Thank you very much. No problem at all.
Take care.